Hey!
Hey!
I didn't know you were gonna be here. Come play with me. Come on, the game's over here. Hurry up before we miss them. I'll play Two Forks and an Anthill.
What does Two Forks and an Anthill even mean anyway?
I feel like we just have to record for a little bit, like have a conversation.
Yeah.
So like we feel it, then we can be like, oh hey, didn't see you there.
I think that's not a good idea. You keep wanting to do that. Like it's
Because it's so weird to just start.
no, it's you have
I feel like I'm in a YouTube video, like, oh, hi guys, welcome to my channel.
yeah, but I mean that's
We're just going to find a good thing that's like right for us.
it's hey guys, my name is Maddie and
My
this is
name's
Haley,
Haley.
and this is Two Forks and a Anthill. That's
Not
the
a
intro.
regular anthill, but a
It's
anthill.
a fucking anthill. The ants are the anthill.
This is the explicitory.
This is the Two Forks and an Anthill.
Explicitory warning. If you are under the age of maturity,
You cannot listen.
you cannot listen. I don't know what the age of maturity is, but if you feel like you are the age of maturity, you may continue to listen. If you are questioning it, go to a different podcast.
We should have a Two Forks OnlyFans. Where it's just like us swearing a lot.
No.
You get no videos, you get no like pictures. It's just like us doing random shit. If this blows up, I want to make a Two Forks and an Anthill OnlyFans.
And like
Where it's just like all the outtakes.
it's just us like headbanging in a car.
Yes. Like hoodies strapped on, like nothing. Like
I'm down.
did I tell you? Oh, this is bad. So a sugar daddy messaged both Alex and I, the same sugar daddy, because she put in our group chat saying that this guy was like trying to pay her for like nudes, and I was like, oh, who was it? And he was the same dude, and he said that he would give us $1,000 each for nudes together.
Are you gonna do it?
No,
Why not?
because no.
That is like 1/6 of your tuition
Yeah,
for one semester.
it was also a week, like every week. It was like $1,000 every week.
I would be like, show me the money.
Yeah.
High key, I would fucking do it. I'm not even lying.
See, that's what I thought too. And then it was like
Then it happened.
the
to you.
opportunity was like presented to us, and we were like, nah. I mean, if we ever get desperate, we could just like DM him and be like, yo, dog, what's up? Still down to give us $1,000 a week.
I mean, like, I don't know if it's true, but I mean, you could
We could try.
do it. I'm telling you, I want to make that book where it's fully girls that are just riding off of old white men's cash and money from OnlyFans and shit.
Wait,
Like
what?
a sugar daddy experience.
You haven't told me about this.
Oh, I want to make a book, okay?
Okay.
Where it's about, it's like a group full of girls in a house. And then you have like different types of girls, obviously. Like they're all like different ethnicities.
You have
like
the bra
different...
girls, and then you
Yeah,
have
your
the policer girls.
Yes. Yep, those are the only two. That's called diversity. And like you have like this one like
It's like the diversity in Sterling Heights.
But you have like this one like super like this like they're all like super fucking hot, and then you have like this one other girl who's just like can talk to anyone and like just super entertaining, right? So she's orchestrating this entire thing where they've all agreed that they're not doing it for sex, they're not going to post any pictures, but they're just like escorts, right? And then
what are they doing?
they're just conning old white men out of their money to pay their rent, to like supply their money for their dreams. Like one girl's like, oh yeah, I want to be a computer science major. One girl's like, oh yeah, I want to be like on the front of this. Like I want to do this. I want to do like they're just.
So it's like the Hype House, but for scamming old men out of their money.
Yes.
Oh my god.
And then
That's so good.
And then then the FBI comes to their house and they're like, yo, open up.
You have
like,
told me about
yeah,
this,
like,
yeah.
you guys aren't like, this is illegal. It is.
I mean, is it?
At some point, I want to make it illegal.
You're gonna push them to that limit.
But basically, like, now they have to all work together, like,
Corbin
with the
Blue in this
FBI.
bitch. Sorry,
But now they all have to work together with the FBI to, like, go con old white men out of their money and prove that these white men are doing the wrongs instead of them. Please don't. That's patented.
And then, oh my gosh. And then all of a sudden, they're in the pedophile ring.
Yeah, that's what I want to do.
Oh,
And like tie in like
the
sex trafficking and stuff to it.
That would be so good.
I know. Thanks.
That'd be such a good book.
So like I wanted to start out kind of like
Funny, entertaining, blah blah blah.
and then
like
shits get serious.
like
because,
very real. Because that's what happens. Like in real life too. Like you'll just literally be walking to school and then a white van will pull up next to you.
Yeah.
Sorry, home from school, Haley.
So, hey, that's a whole other episode about all the times that I've almost been kidnapped. Okay.
I know, but
We're gonna have to get you kidnapped a few times.
I'm trying to think of times that I've been. I don't think that.
There hasn't been a lot.
No. I mean, it had to have happened at some point. I'm just. See, the issue is, I am not.
The issue is that you haven't been almost kidnapped.
No. I'm not as, what's the word?
I really hope you're not gonna say dumb.
No, that's not it. It's actually the opposite. I'm not as observant as you. So there could be somebody following me, and I would have no idea. I started getting observant when you and I became friends. Because you'll point shit out to me. Like when we were like at the grocery store, and then this weird guy walked in, and he just like gave us both weird vibes. And when we walked out of the grocery store, I was like, "Did you see that one guy?" And you were like, "Yeah, I had my eye on him the whole time." Like, I started getting more observant when I started hearing how many times you've almost been fucking kidnapped. Because I know that it had to have happened to me, and I just didn't know. So the fact that I'm still here right now talking to a mic, honestly, shocker. Honestly, I don't know how I haven't died yet. I don't know how I haven't given myself food poisoning. I don't know how I haven't, like, given myself mustard gas poisoning. The amount of times that I was cleaning in Marvin's.
Okay, pause. For all of our listeners that include, like, 2 of my cousins and maybe an aunt, but, like,
Actual aunt.
but, like, an actual, like, blood relative aunt, like, not, like, the creature that's on. Anyways.
Oh, I was talking about an actual, like, aunt.
Oh, like an actual aunt.
Like a small ant, yeah.
Like an ant.
I mean, like, maybe they're scrolling through Google and they're like, oh, 2 forks in an anthill. That
They're
me.
like, oh my gosh, what if they're trying to explain, like, how to build
like
my
a
home?
Warning. It's like a warning.
Yeah.
They're like, what are forks?
We are actually here for the ant colony and not
any actual human
No.
listeners. Only aliens and ants.
just a little boombox by a little ant. No.
They're like tuned in.
everywhere.
Some AirPods in. The ant has AirPods.
What were we talking? Oh, I was just gonna say, like,
We're talking about sex trafficking.
you were gonna say something and I knew what you were gonna say. Oh, mustard gas.
Yes.
If you mix bleach and Windex, that creates mustard gas, which will kill you. So if you are cleaning, never mix chemicals, kids. Okay, like, don't do it. It's not smart. Anyways, back to Marvin's, and you were cleaning and you mixed Windex and bleach.
Yes. No, I'm telling you, when I quarantined with Haley's family, I learned so many things. I learned how to cook an egg. Very proud of myself for that. Honestly, gas stoves are powerful motherfuckers. Let me just tell you that much. Them boys heat up quick, which is funny because I've been cooking with a gas stove for the past year that I've been on my own, moved out. Don't know how I have survived. I learned what mustard gas was and how it can kill you. I've learned.
You just learned what mustard gas was and how it can kill you?
You were the one that taught me about mustard gas.
I thought you knew.
No, this is what I'm talking about right now. I don't know how I'm alive. Like, I used to be like, I'm not a dumb blonde. No, I am a dumb blonde. And it's so bad. And I'm just slowly trying to, like, put myself on the track of enlightenment. And I'm just happy to be here, man. I'm just happy to be kicking.
I'm happy you are here.
So, but yes, that is my short rant about how I love you, Gary Foster. Maybe I shouldn't say his full name like that.
No, that was a little too bold.
I love you, Dad. But I was like, I love you, and you like taught me how to build a house, like,
but not to live in it.
But yeah, I was like, do you know how many times I could have killed myself? I don't know how to cook. My ramen skills are pretty prime, but like that's it. Like that's all I can do. I can boil water and put some noodles in it. Also didn't know how to make pasta until this past year. Who the fuck doesn't know how to make pasta?
I remember that. I taught you how to make
You
pasta.
this is what I mean. The amount of things that I've learned from living with you. And it's funny because I'm not trying to put myself on a pedestal, but I'd consider myself a decently intelligent person.
Mm-hmm.
How did I survive a year on my own? In an old ass building. Like, there's probably lead-based paint on my walls, and like in the middle of the night I just like get up and lick the walls. Like, I swear to God. I'd be like, oh, this isn't okay? I had no idea.
Oh, you would have just died.
I would have just died. 100%. Anyway, hi, I'm Maddie.
I'm Haley, and welcome to Two Forks and an Anthill.
Where we talk about how our lives are low-key kind of fucked up.
Yeah, well, no, we'd like to talk about our growth, and it's kind of a documentary process, but with the podcast and our lives and how our growth works, and obviously learning the things that we didn't know. For example, mustard gas and Clorox should not be mixed.
Yes, and lead-based paint is an issue in old Detroit apartments.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so basically, if you're here and you've made it through all of that nonsense, you're probably wondering what the hell Two Forks and an Anthill actually means. So basically, when you're going through life, and I think that after we explained this, and after I gave that little backstory about how I don't know a damn thing, you're kind of thrown into different situations, and you're given the bare minimum to work with, and you just kind of got to figure it out. So, and the things that you do and the growth that you accomplish through those hard times where you don't know what you don't know, you create who you are, and you create different opportunities and experiences and just your life through all of these things. So even if you're given two forks and an anthill, you will build something from that, and it might be something super basic, but that's your foundation to who you are as a person.
Yeah, and through this podcast, we kind of want to, we'll bring on other people and guests and have them explain a story that they want to tell us, and we kind of want to explore other self-concepts and the impact it has on their perspective through the medium of storytelling.
Yeah. And self-concept, for those of you who may not know, it's kind of a very broad, like, psychology term, and hopefully I'm explaining it correctly, but it's basically, like, the things that you believe that you can do yourself. So, the things that you take in from your different points of life, it is, oh, I can get up and I can go for a run today, or, oh, I can't get up and go for a run today. It's everything and how it impacts you and the things that you believe that you're able to do, able to accomplish, and it just shapes who you are as a person.
Nice.
So that's self-concept.
Beautiful.
Yes. And hopefully over time, I mean, we're doing this, like, not really for an audience, but, like, if you're listening, like, we're more than happy to have you. Yeah. But it is going to be a lot of us just updating on the nonsense that's going on in our lives.
Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit more about our format a little later, but for example, like the first 15 minutes of this podcast usually is going to be something that we were going to call mind and matter. So matter is scientifically is anything that can and will take up space that has a mass. And I think that everybody has mind, like they have a mind obviously, but I mean they have matter in their mind where there's something that is heavy and taking up space in their mind. They want to talk about it. So I feel like that's also a good outlet of what our podcast is going to be for us, where we can sit there and talk about things that like openly and honestly. And once we're able to say it, I think especially on a podcast to the two people that are listening, and which consists of us too, that it can really change our perspective, and especially listening from other people's perspectives and self-concepts and learn from them.
Exactly. Because that, along with the fact that a base of our podcast is going to be storytelling and how those experiences has shaped other people's self-concepts and shaped their lives, and their mentality on just everyday situations, and how they took their two forks and an anthill and built something out of it. And there's so many amazing stories that haven't been told, so we just want to give a platform for those stories. And another thing that we kind of want to touch on in the mind, or matter in the mind segment, is how we took those stories that we're hearing from people and how we've grown from them, or how they've taken up space in our mind in a positive or a negative way, however we perceive it, and how it's changed us as a person and how we can grow from those around us.
Yeah. think that was nicely said, Maddie.
Thank you.
Like we're in a business meeting. We're like, yeah, like we honestly really know what we're talking about.
Yeah, truthfully,
We're so smart, so educated.
I know what mustard gas is.
Yeah, so we're going places in life.
I'm gonna take over the world with my knowledge, and I can cook all of the eggs now.
And when you get a new oven, you gotta burn that stuff off.
Oh yeah.
See,
I'm ready. I'm basically an adult.
Honestly,
Me,
yeah.
20 years old, taking over the world. Shoot.
Yeah.
I should run for president.
Shoot.
Kanye 2020? Nah. Maddie 2020. What a hook. This podcast is secretly scratch everything we just said. It's me just running for presidency.
This is just our presidential campaign, so you can see how much we grow and how honest we can be. Can I be your VP? I was just assuming I was going to be your VP.
Yeah, I mean, that was, yeah.
Okay, cool.
I thought that was already decided. No?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that is called communication, folks.
Oh, yeah, exactly. We got great communication skills up in here. Okay, so anyway, moving into, like, how our podcast episodes are going to be structured and, like, the kind of people that we're going to be interviewing. So, again, we're going to be focusing on how we have grown as people through other people's stories. And the biggest thing that we want to do is just interviewing genuine, like, normal day-to-day people. Because normally if you listen to, like, the Joe Rogan podcast or any other podcast, it's all about interviewing famous people and sharing those stories. And I think one of the most interesting things that we want to touch on is, again, giving the platform for people's day-to-day stories and how the average person, the average genuine person more specifically, why they are the way that they are. So I'd say that's, like, the biggest.
Yeah, and they're also going to be more relatable. And I think every story should have a platform to be told on. Whether people listen or not, that's different. But everybody should have a chance to tell their story, because there's so many stories that go untold, and there's so many amazing moments that should be spread and told.
Exactly. And again, how you can grow from those moments, because again, they shape the person that's telling them. And I also want to do. I want to interview people who have differences of opinions than we do, so we can try to grow. And
I would love that.
Because I really think that right now, a lot of people, and I hope this isn't offensive with me saying this, but a lot of people are very sensitive to other opinions right now.
Yeah.
And I personally find it very interesting and very important to grow from people that have a difference of opinion and why they have that opinion.
Yeah.
Because that allows
maybe
you to
not
be...
to change my opinion, but maybe to understand you and communicate with you and understand why you think the way you do.
Yeah, and it's more about being well-rounded and understanding that, honestly, everyone's just a person. Everyone's just trying to get by in their own way. Yeah. And everyone has a reason for why they are the way that they are, and that's okay, and we should accept that instead of bashing.
On both sides. Yep.
And yeah, so that's another thing, like genuine people who have differences of opinions. I want to pick at people's brains. Honestly, that's the biggest thing. I just want to pick at people's brains, understand why they are, and how I can take that in as another person.
Also, not to say that there aren't flippin' assholes out there, because there's plenty of those. Yeah. But we're talking about
it's all about
genuinely good people that I think also, because of where we are in the world, not even just America and COVID and everything, but we are so isolated and divided that it's difficult, and we can't. The isolation is going to do something, in my opinion. Like it
yeah. It already has.
Yeah, in a social way, not
Huge.
even in a social social justice. I'm talking just people talking to each other at the bar, because there's already been a disconnect with cell phones and Wi-Fi, internet, and how you make friends and everything, but it's going to be a lot different now, in my opinion.
Well, and something that I found more recently after the COVID thing is, whenever I go in public, I try to be just, honestly, I try to be light. Like, I just try to be a good, bubbly person, especially when I'm in public, especially right now. I was literally in line at, like, an Apple store the other day, and the worker was being just, like, an asshole. He was an asshole to the guy before me. He was an asshole to me. And I do absorb other people's negative energy a lot. but I'm like working on not doing that as much. So when I turned around, I saw this guy, and he was wearing like it wasn't a band tee, but it was like, there was like a music staff on it, and there was like, it was something about like sharps and naturals and whatnot. And I didn't even really see what it was, but I turned around and I was like, oh, nice shirt. You know what I mean? Because that's something that I used to do a lot more when I was younger. And he like turned around and he gave me the weirdest look. And then everyone around me turned around and gave me the weirdest look. And I was like, that's odd. And I've been going out of my way, especially in public, to like genuinely compliment people.
Yeah.
And I think it's different, because when I did it, and when I say younger, it's not even like I was too much younger. I was probably like 18. You know what I mean? Like a couple years ago. And everyone was just so much more accepting. And now with everything, I feel like everyone thinks that, because I brought it up to my roommates, and they were like, oh, like it seems like you're being sarcastic. And I'm like, no, it's not a sarcasm thing at all. And I think that everyone believes that everyone else is out to get them almost.
Yeah.
Like you almost expect for someone to be rude to you instead of be nice to you.
And it's weird when they're nice, because then you're like, oh, you're condescending. Like, what do you want?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think it's honestly such a hard thing, because as people, and we live in the Midwest, you know what I mean? Like, it's not even like we live in a bad area, and everyone, when you go out, everyone is just cold. Everyone is so much colder than they used to be. Grocery
100%,
stores,
100%,
CVS.
yep.
And I'm like, as a person, like, I'm just trying to be warmth, and it's hard because it's like, it is a very social separation that we have with everyone.
I also think this is going to be a reset on a lot of things, and it deserves to be a reset on a lot of things, because it's kind of like that it's like in bio when you learn about the maximum capacity, which is probably a bad time to bring this up, but I mean, like, at one point everybody gets to something can go on for so long, a population, that all of a sudden, like, there is going to be a line where you cannot succeed and pass. And I think that's kind of like, we're doing a maximum capacity of socialization right now, where it's like, we've gone so far of technology and this and like internet talking, internet friends, and this, that the maximum capacity has been reached, and we no longer know how to talk to each other anymore. Like, we are going through a reset of like where it's going to die off, and it sucks. And it's just, it's weird. We are in a weird time. And I didn't realize how weird of a time we were in until my little brother is going to school for 2 days a week instead of the full weeks, and having to homeschool because of this. Like, that is bizarre.
Well, it's that, and it's also very, very sad, because when you're only, like, I gained my social skills through school.
Me too.
And I think it's funny, because even when you and I go out, because obviously we're both very outgoing people.
Yeah.
Especially when we're together.
Yes.
So, like, when we go to paintball, and we're
trying to talk to people, and they're just looking at us like not knowing how to react back.
Yeah. And it's like people our age too. It's like 20. You're 20 years old and you don't know how to carry a conversation.
Yeah. Granted, we are a little strange. You know, like, we don't care about like dancing in front of people when there's no music. But
But
like,
I
if
feel
we're
like,
like, hey, what kind of gun do you have? And you're just like sitting there like, paintball gun. What kind of paintball gun do you have? And they're just like looking at me like, there's clips in it, and you're like, that's not what I asked. Have a good day, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's strange.
It's just funny, because I feel like I even more so, I have this whole thing where if I feel like I can't do something, I want to do it more, which is why when that Apple guy was being a dick to me, I was like, you're having a bad day, let me make this other guy's day type of thing.
I'm gonna get it to be better.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's something that's very important for me, and I find it funny, because I feel like that's why or at least that's why I am incredibly extroverted when I'm around a group of people that I feel like are closed off, because I want to be like, no, like, you can be comfortable. We can have these conversations.
Yeah.
Like, we can talk about the differences of opinion, even if you feel like nobody listens to you type of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I get it.
And that's another reason why I think that we are both really great mediums for opinions that may not be as popular, or I don't want to say popular, just different.
Opinions that may be different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because although we may not agree with them,
but we're going to hear them out.
Exactly.
To their fullest extent and pick their brain at it.
Yes.
Back to so that's the type of people that we want on this podcast, and that's why we wanted to start this podcast, is to open up a dialogue on differences in people and just really boiling somebody down into who they are and what makes them them, and like as much as we can in an hour, and tell stories that nobody else has a platform to tell, because that's the world that we live in today.
Yes.
Is that there is no platform to open up a dialogue on anything.
Or there's too much dialogue and it's on Twitter and everything is
there's too much,
everything is very,
too much of a diluted dialogue.
yes. Yep.
So, something that we want to be consistent on in this podcast is ending every episode with the same rotation of 3 big questions for the person. 3 or 4 questions. They're going to be consistent and the same, but tweaked a little bit for each person. But just so you can see, for me especially, or you want to see, or I want to see, whatever, how different people are, even though you're asking the exact same question.
Yes, how
and
their
perspective
answers differ.
and how their answers differ. And I feel like the 3 questions that we got kind of boil them down very much, but you can
Without
get
realizing
deep.
it. Yeah.
And you can get deep, but you can get open at the same time, and it's just how they take it.
Yes.
And I feel like a lot of what they say is going to be important, and they will be given to them beforehand, so they really have time to like think about it too.
Yes.
So we're going to answer those 3 questions with the last little bit of this time that we have on this first episode.
Okay.
So our first question that we're going to start off was, what is a show or song more like that resonates with you right now in your time of your either mind or your present self?
So I personally, whenever this question is going to be asked, I'm probably always going to choose a song, because music is just, it's always been such a very, very big pillar of my life, through expression. And I find it very fascinating how different artists can use literary devices to, but show the audience a part of their brain. I think that music is an amazing, beautiful, beautiful thing, that can connect people in different ways. And it is an amazing art form.
That was a really good way of saying it.
Thank you. So, one of my favorite groups, I want to say, is Sleeping at Last. And they, if you're into music, literally just look up Sleeping at Last. They have beautiful instrumental, and you can boil down the lyrics, and if you read them as a poem, they write their lyrics as a poem, and it's fascinating how they do it. But one song that I've been really, really resonating with recently is Neptune. And it is a song about how you used to be such an open book, and you are trying to love this person, you're trying to give everything to this person or people or whomever, whatever, and you just can't. And the line is, I'm an open book with a torn out page, and my ink has run out, because throughout my entire life, and this is part of the reason why I'm very excited to be doing this podcast, I have always been a very open book. I've always been very open about the things that have caused me to grow. And the older that I get, the more I'm trying to pick at my brain, my own personal brain, at a deeper level, and understanding how I can interact with others. And I've gone through some shit that has just caused me more recently to not be open and to have walls up that have never been there. So I'm getting to know myself in a different light now. And I'm trying to understand those walls and break them down a little bit more. But the song is just about how you're only honest when it rains. If I time it right, the thunder breaks when I open my mouth. And it's like you're screaming and you don't want anyone to hear you, but you still want to say it.
Yeah.
And I think that's so funny, because a huge pillar of my life is affection and love and being empathetic and all of these things. And hopefully, if we do have any listeners, like, you'll get to know that about me, is that I am a very empathetic, warm person, and that's what I try to be. However, more recently, it's been a weird turning point. So that song is just very, it speaks to me right now a lot, and how it's a very pretty song. It's very mind-opening, and if you want to know how my brain works, you can just check it out and read the lyrics. And yeah, so I really like that song right now.
I like that. I think the torn out page and the empty ink is what got me so much, because I've listened to that song so many times, and like that line gives me chills every time.
Yeah, because it is.
Because it's such a simplistic way of putting the thoughts of your brain down, especially when somebody asks you kind of a harsher question and all you have is I don't know, because you're like, I know there's something supposed to be there, but I have no idea what happened to it.
Yeah, it's just gone.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that's another reason why I love that song and I love that artist group, whatever. Is because it almost is, I love music that is so simple. But when you read into it, it's like, okay, but what does this mean? And it always means something so strong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but
That's
yes. How about you?
That's deep. My song, since I first heard it, I think it's been something that, like, when I first listened to it, it's such a happy sounding song. But when I started listening to the lyrics, it broke me down.
Yeah.
It's called Wrong Direction, and it's by Passenger. Some of the lyrics are, I love to feel love, but I can't stand the rejection. I hide behind my jokes as a form of protection. That gets me, because it's such a simplistic line.
We both have songs about how we have issues.
That line gets me so much, because it's the rejection part. I'm not really too worried about rejection, but it's like, I want to feel open, I want to feel loved, I want all the things, but my fear is getting in my own way.
Yeah.
And then I stand hide behind my jokes as a form of protection is such, I think it's a song that anyone can relate to at any time, whether it's a relationship with love or a relationship with friendship or family or whatever.
Yeah, because a lot of people put on another face than they're actually feeling.
Especially jokes, because I use humor to hide. I joke about everything because it's the only way that I know how to get through things. Like,
oh yeah,
when I'm going through a tough time, or I have a friend going through a tough time, or a family member, my family always right away tries to make the stupidest joke.
yes,
Because I think it's a test that my dad kind of unverbally told me on people, that if they're going through a really rough time but they can still laugh, then they still have a light to get through it. But if they can't laugh, like that will, the day that I can make a bad joke and nobody laughs back, even like if it's an upsetting time, like I know that it's going to be affected for a long time, and I know that time, it's not just going to be time that can heal it.
yes.
So that's going to be a scary time for me. But I hide behind my jokes as a form of protection is such a deep line to me, that it's so simplistic again, but it's deep. Because I think everybody has jokes that they hide behind, and they hide behind the humor of like, no, I don't really care that you don't like me, or I don't really, whatever.
Yeah, it's
like,
whatever.
Yeah,
Just an
the
asshole.
jokes. And I am a very sarcastic person. Like, if I find somebody that intimidates me, or I want to get to know, or is just a little bit more of an interest to me, whether it's a friendship or relationship wise, for some reason I'm a complete asshole to them right away.
You really are.
And I think it's because it's kind
It's
of
a vibe
like,
check.
it's me testing them to see how far will you let me go before you stand up for yourself, or before you start teasing me back.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's not like a girl on the playground fighting a boy, but it's more of just like, it is a vibe check. It is a test of, can you stick up for yourself, and do you have a strong enough mind to let me, or will you stop me?
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting.
And
to me.
I think that kind of relates back to how people are just more sensitive now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is now or if it's just something with our age range or what's going on, but 9 times out of 10, if someone's sarcastic, it's like, oh, you're a bitch. Like, that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree. And it's something I can't even, it's not like I'm sitting there calling them out on them being an awful person or anything.
Yeah.
It's just so much of, I am immediately close up, and I show that I'm closed up.
No, it's never anything that actually targets, like, any insecurity.
Yeah, I would never want to do that.
It's always lighthearted.
It's a lighthearted that's supposed to be lighthearted, but once you get past my sarcasm, that is my only defense of my wall. So that's gotta be strong. But if you can get past that, like, you immediately become an important person in my life. Like, if you pass that one test, like, you immediately become, like, I will set everything down to help you out and everything.
Which I find so funny, because when we first met, I was so sensitive. Like, I mean, like, I still am, like, a pretty emo person, no lie. But, like, I find that so funny how, like, we got past that weird point. You know what I mean? Not that I thought that you were being serious at first, or not that I thought that you were trying to attack me, but before we became friends, like, I'd say, yeah, I'm sarcastic. No, I was not. I was the most, like, upfront bitch that you could have met.
Yeah.
And another thing that I kind of wanted to comment on is how you and your family when you're going through hard times, you really do throw that joke out there just to like gauge how the person is doing. And I honestly find that to be like a very special thing, because that's how I know that you guys care about me or care about anybody else.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, how are you actually without me asking you?
I do it with everyone, and some people are like, that is such an insensitive thing to do right now. Like, how could you joke right now? It's just...
But people almost don't have to get it.
Yeah. No, they don't have to. It's just the person that I care about that's upset and knows me has to get it.
Yes.
And there's been times where there has been some upsetting things that happen to people, and I will crack that joke, and people will take me aside and being like, yo, like, that was... It's never a distasteful joke. I'm freaking hilarious. No, but I mean, like, it's not... They're bad jokes. It's like a dad joke in the moment. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's something just enough where if somebody can force a laugh, you know what I mean? Or just a comedic
or a smile
break.
Or smirk. Or
just even look at me and just be like, what the fuck was that? Like, what?
Yeah.
Why? Like, when I do crack that joke, and because you can never, if somebody's going through something really rough, and you can never be like, okay, but how are you right now? Like, how are you feeling? Like, you're gonna be like shit, dude. Like, this just happened.
Yeah.
But there's always subtle things in your mind that happen, I believe, that are pictures of the future or minutes of the future where, like, you can honestly tell how somebody is feeling.
Yes.
At all times. Like, 100%. You know if you're going to be okay, whether you can admit that to yourself in the time or in the moment or not, you know you're going to be okay.
Things like that, so interesting how you can do one small thing and it can completely change, like, a person's mentality. It can completely change how a person reacts to things. Yeah. And it also shows you such a deep part of their brain, which is why I like these 3 questions.
Yeah.
Because it can show such a deep part of their brain and spark such an interesting conversation without you, with just asking, what's a song that's resonating with you, right? So the second one is, tell me a story of a coffee cup. And moving forward, it's going to be like, tell me a story of the color blue, tell me a story of a lamp, random things. And this is going to be the type of question that we tailor for whoever the interviewee is.
Yes.
But for right now, we're both caffeinated, very caffeinated.
2 coffee cups in.
Exactly. And we both like coffee, so coffee cup, go.
So mine's not really a story per se, but it's more of my linking of how my mind works. I'm writing a book right now, not that it'll ever come out for any reason, but I just like to write to, like, clear my head. And in my book, there's a character who's very strong, who's very, like, stone-walled, wall up, nothing going, like, won't let anybody in, won't let anything out. Sounds familiar?
Wonder who that's modeled after.
No.
It's crazy.
But she kind of has some issues going on with somebody that's too influential of their life and too into it and too kind of like a stalker, like too much into it. Don't give me that look. But too much into it, and she cannot understand why it's such an obsessive thing with this person. It's dangerous, it's bad, it's not good. But she, more than needs it to stop, needs to understand why it's a thing.
Yes.
And in the story, there's kind of like, to give it a little bit more of, what's the word, like ironic irony of it, and to give it a little bit more symbolism, there's a teacher who has this obsessive thing with a coffee mug for no reason.
Yeah.
And, like, it's always, like, will be a scene where, like, there's high schoolers, like, running around them and, like, people, and he's like, just wash the coffee mug. Just don't touch the coffee mug.
Me too. Honestly, same.
Just, like, please. And there's just a very dramatic scene in the end of the book where, spoiler alert, but there's just a very dramatic realization of the symbolism in the end of the book with the coffee mug, where when the main character breaks of her utter confusion of never being able to understand this man's obsession or the stalker's obsession with her, she just gets so angry that she just shatters the coffee mug.
Yeah.
And it kind of like, it's more of a representation of how some things you will just never be able to understand.
Yep.
But there's always a little bit of that in everyone.
Yes.
So that's my
so
symbolism.
Cool. It's like the shattering of...
Yeah. And it's also her breakdown of her officially, because she doesn't... It's a very... Again, I'm never probably going to release this book, so I could just say it. She's a very unemotional, uninteresting character when you're reading it. Like, you're just reading it and you're like, she never reacts to anything.
Oh, Haley. Oh, Haley.
Like, it's a very boring character, but everybody else around her is what's interesting in the book, and everything that's happening to her is what's interesting in the book. But then when you get that final emotional break, she becomes a very interesting mind intellectual character when you get that emotional break in the end of the book.
Gotcha. That's actually really interesting because I think that kind of relates back to the whole conversation that we were having about how we both have walls and how I feel cold right now and how you have walls and you hide it with your sarcasm. Because it's almost like when the mug breaks, that's like letting the walls down. It's like, all right, fuck it. Like, yeah, like what's going on?
I got nothing else to lose at this point.
And I think that everyone kind of has that breaking point where you're like, my walls got to come down now. Or maybe not come down, but I need to do something. It's
I don't even care that they're down anymore. Like, I'm already, not even so low, but I'm already so done with the capacity of what my brain could take.
Yeah. That's so cool. I mean, my mug story is a little less deep. I love coffee. It's kind of a problem. I'm not even gonna lie to you. It's a very big problem. But I remember, wow, we're just gonna get deeper right off the bat. But here's the thing. Whenever I think back to, like, my really young childhood, I have the greatest memories. Like, I had a really, really great childhood up until I was probably, like, 8. And that's when shit started kind of hitting the fan. But who doesn't have their own shit? But I have this coffee mug. And it's just plain glass. It's transparent. And there are little cows all around the little cup. And I remember camping with my family, and it'd be like me, my aunt, my mom, and like my grandma. Actually, all of my aunts. Like, we would all get coffee in this little camper that has since disappeared. I have no idea where it went. And my mom and, like, everyone was just so happy and healthy, and all of the girls and all the women would get coffee in the morning and sit in this little camper and just, like, have a little whatever. And I remember there being, like, an inch of coffee in the bottom of this mug, and the rest of it was, like, milk, cream, sugar, whatever. And I blame this mug on my caffeine addiction now.
I was gonna say.
Because I was probably 6 years old, and they're giving me, like, coffee. You know what I mean?
I have a question. Is it really the mug, or is it the happy memories that come with the coffee in the mug?
Definitely the happy memories.
Family?
Yes, for sure. But it's funny because, you know, as I got older and as I started drinking more coffee, whatever, coffee's always been and I've broken the addiction before. I know I can do it. It's the type of thing, it is a very comforting thing to me, where I wake up in the morning, I go outside, I have my cup of coffee, you know what I mean? It's a time for me to mentally check in with myself, see how I'm doing. Am I rushing to finish my coffee to where I have to go? Am I going out and getting coffee? You know what I mean? Another thing that I love about coffee in this mug is because smells are very, very intense for me. So the smell of coffee has always reminded me of being in that camper and growing up and drinking coffee. The vanilla creamer that I always like to put in my coffee, because vanilla is like my warm comfort scent, and coffee is like one of my warm comfort scents. And it's something that, regardless of the scents that can take me back to bad memories, for some reason, it always takes me back to a good memory. So it's also a reason why it's just a very warm, comforting time and thing for me. But anyway, so the third and last question is, what do you think happened to you in your life that was a blessing in disguise?
The first time I ever, I want to say failed, because I always work my ass off in sports, because I saw sports as my way to get to college and a way to pay for college. So I never really enjoyed sport. Like, I enjoy watching them, I enjoy that, and like playing them, but I'm talking competitively. Like, I was never one to be like, oh yay, like I get to go to this. Like, I always just saw it as more of a job that I had to do, a job that I enjoyed nonetheless, but it was a job. And I just always made the team, always did this. And the first time I ever didn't make a team was because I kind of got screwed over, but that's beside the point by a coach. The first time I ever didn't make a team, I was so off put. I had no idea like what to do, where I was going. I was like 14. I was too young, too old for 14U, too young for the 16U team that I tried out for. and they wanted a second year catcher, and I obviously wasn't a second year catcher, which is okay, but it was just didn't work out.
Yeah.
And I remember being on the porch getting the phone call saying that I didn't make the team, and it was the only team I tried out for because I missed all the other tryouts for this team. Like, I specifically put all my eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
Because my team, like, my high school coach promised me I'd make the team. Warning out there, if you are a student athlete, please do not play the travel team of your high school coach. Make sure your travel team in high school and your high school coach are two totally different coaches. Thank you. My coworker told me that, and I was like, I wish somebody would have told me that. He's like, that's the only advice I give my players. And I was like, I wish someone would have told me that.
Yeah.
Make sure they are separate coaches. It does not matter. So anyways, I didn't make the team, and I didn't, for the first time, this was a team that I played 5 days out of the week, was dedicated to softball.
Yeah.
Thursday we'd be traveling, Friday we'd be playing, Saturday we'd be playing, Sunday we'd be playing, and Monday we'd be traveling, Wednesday we would be playing. Actually, 6 days of the week. Wednesday we would be practicing, Monday we'd be practicing and traveling, and then Tuesday would be like ice bath day. Like, that would be like my day off that I'd be icing. So I was totally full up all summer, and then finally I for the first time I didn't have anything to do. Like, I didn't have a sport to put anything towards.
Yeah.
So my friend Delaney was like, hey, why not try being a goalie on lacrosse?
Oh, that's how you got into lacrosse?
Yeah. And then I was like, no. My dad's like, told me. He's like, yeah, I have a friend that kind of is a coach for a travel team on lacrosse.
I never knew.
He always asked if we were interested because he'd always saw that you were a catcher and like you made all these like teams and like you had, because I'm not tooting my own horn, but I was a very decent catcher. Like my mentality of block the ball at all costs, doesn't matter if a bat's swinging at me, like framework, everything. Like I had umpires like come up to me and be like, you're going somewhere and catching, like you are going to be like very good. Like I trained for that position.
Yeah.
I was pretty set.
Yeah.
And then Chris was like, yeah, just come in. Like my coach Chris from Triumph was just like, come in. Like I want to throw a few balls at you. We'll see where you're at. Like see if you have like the hand-eye coordination to do it. And I sat there. They taught me in 5 minutes, and they were like, hey, we have a tournament this weekend. Do you want to be a part of it? So I ended up going for this one tournament, and I had no idea anything about it. Like I didn't even know how to throw. I didn't even know.
You just knew how to catch.
I just knew how to catch. I just knew how to block a ball. And I literally, like the first shot that somebody threw at me, I caught with my bare hand.
You're just like hard piece of rubber coming at me, bop.
I have this giant tennis racket sized net, and I used my hand to catch it.
Yes.
And then like the ref was like, is that allowed? And I was like, I don't know. And I couldn't even clear the ball. Like I couldn't even throw it out. Like I just had to put it in the circle and leave the circle, and then runner had to come in and get it, because I literally had a 5-minute explanation on how to do it.
That's so
and that
funny.
was it. And from there, like I went to college on a D2 scholarship, and like I could have honestly, like I've been told like D1 coach, like I could have been D1, not to gloat, but I could have been D1, but because I started so late, I didn't become a goalie until like sophomore year. And if you're like a freshman or a sophomore, like you're already being talked to by D1 colleges. Like they snatched them up that early, so it was like all spots were already filled. But like I could have gone further in that. And
damn.
Yep.
I never knew that's actually why you got into lacrosse.
Yep. It's because I didn't make my softball team, and then I went to college, and I met literally the best friends I could have ever made, and just like had the best year I could have possibly had, and it was just great. But then I also found out what I wanted to do, and
yeah.
So.
You grew a lot when you went off to West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
You really did. And like the people that you met are amazing people.
Yeah.
My blessing in disguise is when I decided, or I was basically forced to change my major in college, obviously. So when I was in 7th grade, I kind of had this weird realization moment where I realized that I wanted to do something different with my life. Not even different in the regards of like, oh, I want to be different. I want to travel, blah, blah, blah. But I want to impact people in a good way, in any way that I can. And it was funny because I was actually just going through all of my, old documents and stuff, and I came across this like little questionnaire, and it must have been from like 6th grade, and I'm being super deep in all these questions because it's like young Maddie, blah blah blah, whatever. And I keep talking about how I wanted to be in the film industry, but if this if that fell through, then I wanted to, like, film industry, author type of thing. But if that fell through, then I wanted to be a teenage therapist. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even know at this time that that was what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. I completely forgot until I read that. Mm-hmm. But when I was in 7th grade, I decided I wanted to do something to help people and have a good impact. When I was a sophomore in high school, I realized that was kind of my calling. That's why I believe that I was put on this earth, is to be able to help people with my experiences and my voice and my outlook on life. Mm-hmm. And so I chose nursing because it was comfortable. I was able to help people, not in the way that I'd wanted, but it was smarter, with quotes. Mm-hmm. And I convinced myself that this is what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And then I took my first bio class in college, and the professor was honestly trash. Like, she taught at my university for a semester. She taught Bio 1050. And I think 75% of the class failed, and then she left the university or was fired or something happened. But anyway, failed the first bio class, and then all summer, I was already kind of behind because I knew that nursing wasn't what I wanted to do. So if I didn't pass this bio class, I basically would have already been a year behind. So I was taking like a placement exam for it. I studied every week, days every week. I met up with my friend who taught me a lot about bio. I knew this material very well. I still know this material. And I took it. I took the exam, and I was 2 points off of what I needed to be. You needed like a 34 to pass, and I got like a 32, literally, or something like that. And after that, I found public health, and I realized that public health, while it's not the most secure degree that you can have, it is very well-rounded, where I can go into business management, I can go into social and behavioral, I can go into biostatistics, I can go into epidemiology, I can help combat the opioid crisis, which is something I'm currently interested in. There's just so many different careers that I can do with this, and I can also provide people and provide teenagers and provide parents with the resources to help trauma and to help all these things that I've always wanted to do. I can basically be a teenage therapist on a more wide scale because it's public health. And I would not have done that. I would not have found public health, and I would not have felt fulfilled in what I'm doing with my life that I've known that I've wanted to do with my life since I was in 7th grade if I didn't pass that exam. And I remember I took the exam. I had to go straight to work. I was late to work. And I called my boyfriend at the time, and I was like, I fucking failed the exam. And I was walking back to my apartment where I parked my car, and I remember it was literally like a movie. It was pouring rain.
I love that.
And I was, like, standing at, like, a crosswalk on the phone, and this truck, like, drove past and splashed a puddle in my face. And I was like, what is life? This, I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to do with my degree. I can't do nursing anymore. Everything was shit. And then I think the next week I had a meeting with one of my, at the time, sorority sisters who got really, really heavily screwed over by the nursing program at my school because she was super smart, like in the top 5 percentile. And she was like, you should look into public health. And she started explaining everything to me, and I was like, holy shit, this is like...
This is what I need.
This is what I need. Yeah. It pushes me politically, it pushes me mentally, it pushes me in every way, and I still have the comfort of being able to go into a different sector in case the social and behavioral doesn't work out for me. So that is definitely a blessing in disguise.
That's awesome. I love how both of our... Like, that's a thing that I'm still trying to come to concept for, is that failure does not mean that you are done.
No. Failure is the thing that literally pivots your life in a way, and it opens doors that you believe are shut. It shuts the correct doors and it opens other ones.
I also think that I would have not quit. But I would have not transferred schools to do what I wanted to do for now, because the reason I'm no longer a student athlete collegiately is because I changed my major. My school didn't have my major, and I came home and I decided that I'm going to work my ass off through college to pay for what I want to do in my life. I don't think I would have done that if I didn't fail getting on that team, because when I was 15, 14, I was terrified of failing. I did everything I possibly could, which is the reason that I played so hard and so emotionally, because I am such an emotional sports player. Like, if I mess up, or if something is on me, like, I take that on me. Like, I don't let anybody else take it. And it doesn't, I'm such a hard person on myself, completely myself.
Yeah. Which I think is something that you and I have in common.
Yeah. And
in a weird way.
Sports, like, when I get emotional or whatever, like, it does not decrease my playing or my mental game. Like, my physically performance is great still, like, or whatever. It's still good. But mentally, like, my mind chews itself up because I hate failing, and I don't think I would have transferred home in schools and stopped playing lacrosse if it wasn't for those failures that I had to become a lacrosse player and to go into being a goalie and to do that, because I wouldn't have wanted my dad, not to call my dad out, but I mean, like, saw me transferring home and transferring schools as a failure type thing.
Oh,
not like as a failure, like, oh, you're a disappointment, but a failure as in, like, you are letting go of this amazing opportunity that you worked so hard for. And then I realized, I was like, yeah, but I only worked hard for it because I did not have another plan. Like, yeah. And that's when I realized that it's okay to fail, and it's okay to be the one that fails yourself.
Yeah.
It does not mean that you're done.
Yeah, and you're gonna fail. Like, and I know that that's something that everyone is told from a young age, is you're gonna fail. You have to ask questions. You have to put yourself out there in order to grow.
But I don't think it's something that you really get into until you were much older.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. And you have to fall on your sword. And I think that failure teaches you things like how to be honest about when you make mistakes in friendships or relationships, or how to hold yourself accountable. If you're not okay with failure, and obviously, like, I'm okay with failure, but it's still something that scares me. It's always, nobody wants to fail. Nobody. But once you accept that that is what is important for your growth, I think it just allows you to be so much more honest with yourself and not hide the important things that you have to do or have to overcome, or and I think that also plays into, like, discomfort and
100%.
Like, talking about discomfort, and that's a whole other episode that I want to do, is talk about the importance of having a balance between being uncomfortable and being comfortable, because that is a whole thing that I'm experiencing right now. But I think that also plays into the failure. It's uncomfortable, but you need to do it. Grow. Yes.
It's where you're tested too.
Yes, always.
So those are our big 3 questions, but there is one more that I find very, very interesting, and personally I don't have an answer for, so Maddie, you're going to go first.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
So it's, what is one milestone that you would have a very hard time convincing your younger self that you conquered?
Moving out at 19.
Really? Why?
I mean, I don't think that it'd be hard for me to convince myself, but it's something that even now I'm like, holy shit, I did that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's not even, like, I think that I'd believe that I did it, but I think that it would just be a very, I'd say that it'd be a very interesting conversation for me to have with my younger self, because it's something that I've wanted since I was 15. I remember laying in my bed talking to my friends or my boyfriend or whomever and being like, I'm going to move out. As soon as I get to college, I'm going to move out. Yeah. And I think that moving out was a bigger thing for me, because when I decided to move to my university and get a job at a restaurant and change my major and do all of these things, and really that was when I started living more for myself and less for others, which now that I think about it, was something that I needed to do for my entire life, and it's still something I'm working on, is living for myself and not others. Yeah. But for the longest time, I was always afraid of my dad not supporting me. Yeah. And when I moved out, he did not think that it was a good idea at all. And that was the first time where I was like, I don't care what you think, this is what I want to do. And I worked my ass off. I found the landlord. I was on her ass for months. Like, do you have any units open? I'm trying to move in this summer. What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. Phone calls, emails, at least once a month. And it was the first thing that I ever really honestly worked for in my adult life. And I was so young and I didn't know what I was doing, and I figured it out. Like, literally nobody was helping me because I refused to let anybody help me. I was like, no, I'm doing this. I don't care what you think. I don't care what you want. I'm changing my major. I'm doing what I want to do. And I'm going to create a home for myself.
That's awesome. Wow.
And
so proud of you.
So I think that it's less of, like, me moving out because I always wanted to, but it's more... I looked in the face of everyone that ever told me that I couldn't do something, and I proved them wrong. Yeah. And it was all for me. Like, it wasn't to prove them wrong.
Yeah, you just realized that you did it along the way.
Yes.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
And, yeah, again, I always live for other people, and, yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, that was the first time that I was like, nope, this is my life.
Yeah, this is what I told myself I was going to do, and this is what I'm going to do.
Yep, and I did it.
That's awesome.
And I created that comfortable space for me, again, with the comfort.
I was told a story, or not a story, a history lesson about the Apollo missions.
Okay.
And I, from there, fell in love with space exploration.
How old were you?
5th grade, probably 10.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And then following that 2011, I remember legitimately hopping into a swamp in Florida. Please don't ever hop into a swamp at Florida.
They got gators.
Doing the stingray shuffle, which is when you shuffle your feet along the sandy floor of brackish water and salt water and fresh water, does not matter, so you don't get stung by a stingray, so they know you're coming.
I love stories about your Florida days.
And moving my hands in the water to make sure that there are no gators.
When you're 10?
When I was 11 or 10, and I watched the last launch of the shuttle missions, and I remember it rumbling my chest and feeling the sonic boom.
When you're in the swamp.
I honestly think it was like Cocoa Beach, but like still. And I just remember seeing the light go up, and I was just so amazed that's how that we could do that. And then I remember like driving in the car, and like, you know, like when you let your hand go against the air and you're like, you do like the whole like flying in the air.
Yeah. Then like Friday by Rebecca Black.
Yeah. Great song. And like
chilling in the backseat.
Yeah. And when I was the same age on the way back, and suddenly understanding how airplanes fly by doing that to myself.
Yeah.
And like that hunk of metal and how that was flying. And it was just like, that was the moment. And like, I fell in love with like space and exploration, and I looked up things of my own, and you could literally show me any cluster of stars and I could tell you like which one it was, type thing.
Yeah.
And then I did this awful thing where
did a bad thing.
where I realized that was a man's world, and I was a girl, and I wasn't smart enough, and I couldn't do it. I never saw myself in that field of understanding. And I think the hardest thing that I have to do to convince my younger self was that I quit I quit a job of me being a student collegiate athlete, which is what I've always been told to do by my family. Not told, like...
But persuaded.
And told, like, that this is smart, this is the good move. To go into the man's world and understand and go against the grain of STEM.
Yes.
And realizing that there are opportunities out there and that I am smart enough and I can do it. And I think that'd be the hardest thing that I convinced myself. Even if I don't do it now or in the future, for some reason it falls apart and I no longer do it. Just convincing myself of that goal of that was the right move because I did it for myself and I did it because I know that I can.
Yeah. I
think that'd be the hardest thing to convince myself when I was a kid.
You know what I find interesting? Again, going back to the failure and the discomfort and whatnot. Mm-hmm. I think that when you get to this point where you've said no to opportunities, that is the quote-unquote right opportunity, the smart decision, it's almost like taking weight off your shoulders because we're both following our passions right now. Passions that we've had since we were kids. And even at this point, I think that we both have the mentality where it's like, however, if life puts me somewhere else, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, and I'm going to make it through it, and I'm just going to know that I did everything to do what I wanted to do. And I'm not going to, if I'm in a point in life that I'm not happy with, I'm not going to let myself take it.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm not going to end up in a bad place because I followed somebody else's path, and I'm not going to be unhappy for that reason.
Exactly.
Like I'm not going to let myself be unhappy type,
Yeah.
or I'm not going to let myself be unpassionate, or I'm not going to let myself be in a situation where I'm not going to work hard enough for what I want.
Because you've already made that hard decision of saying, no, this isn't, I'm not going to live for other people. And that's something that honestly I'm realizing right now.
Yeah.
Because those experiences, it really, I mean, obviously I knew it before, but yeah, because you, like when you said, even if it's not what I do, it's still making the active decision, like, but I'm gonna do the damn thing. I'm gonna give it all I got.
Give it all I got, and if I fail, then fuck it. It sucks. I fail, but I'm still gonna have that passion.
And there's gonna be a reason. And there's gonna be a reason. And that's honestly, I personally believe that everything in life does happen for a reason. I really, really do. And the things that you fail at have more reason than anything else.
Yeah.
Like, because it's through those failures where you learn and you get to show yourself, like, what you're actually capable of, what you're capable of pushing yourself through. And, like, I think that right now it's just finding a balance where we are, like, finding a balance of this is what I want to do, but also allowing life to guide you and being flexible and trying not to take things too deep.
This is what I gotta do, but this is my foundation that I have. This is what I'm being given.
This is what I built off of
This
two
is
forks
my
and an
2
anthill.
forks and an anthill. What a sly ending!
Honestly, I'm really proud. I think that we did a great job of explaining in this episode, like, what 2 forks and an anthill actually
really
means.
just selling it to you.
Anyway.
Yep. That was a good conclusion to our first episode. Like, that was a good wrap up. Maybe we weren't like both saying 2 forks and an anthill at the same time, but the listener got
that
it.
was literally it. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Hey, fist bump. Yeah.
So good.
Also, did you hear about Pluto?
That's
It's
messed up.
Anyway, so if you're still here, thank you so much for listening.
Yes. It's a long journey.
Yes.
This has been our first episode. I'm Haley. This is my voice.
And I'm Maddie. This is my voice. I'm sorry. Anyway, we will see y'all next time.
Thank you and goodbye.
Have a great day.
Woo!